Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Thriller Podcast. What's going on this week, Mike?
Hey, I guess you could say I'm just chilling with Chris Hauty this week.
Just chilling. Are you done for the summer?
No, we're getting close. This week, finish up, and then 3 days next week, and done by next Thursday. Probably about the time people are hearing this podcast. So yes, I am on summer break then.
Looking forward to so you're just chilling with some Hayley chill. Nice to have some Hayley chill back in our life. Although we're gonna get into this novel. It's interesting. I'll say that to start out with. There's things I like about it. Let's just say there's things I like about it.
There's things I like about it too. I think when we were texting while reading the book, the stars will align in terms of the scenes that we liked. But the inverse, I think, is also going to be true, that there were parts that maybe weren't doing it for us. And then I'm hoping by the end of this conversation, we can have just a quick riff on what we kind of want in a Hayley Chill novel.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we're nobody to speak on that, right? And an author's craft is the author's craft. As the children say, let them cook. But, sometimes you need a sous chef. And so I kind of want to toss out there just a brainstorm of what you and I want to see in the series, what maybe some of the fans like, and kind of going back to the early days of what made Deep State and Savage Road, hit so hard. I think there was a voice there that really worked. And I just wonder how far removed the last two books have felt from that. But I'm sure that's something we'll get into as we go through this one. Not to be too negative. I'm going to find the positive too.
Yeah, no, and I guess we should say we're covering Chris Hauty's latest novel, The Devil You Know. Came out early June, mid-May. It's been a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
This is the fourth book in the Chill series. And there's also a novella, Insurrection Day, which we both of us really liked. And yeah, I guess maybe if you want to give us a recap of where we are when we start out this novel, where did Storm Rising was the last one.
Yeah.
Another interesting novel. I think that, kind of a mixed bag, things we liked, things we didn't like. The concept of that story was interesting, this new civil war, essentially, with the people in the military taking over or wanting to take over. But yeah, we're at a pretty monumental event in Chill's life, with, I guess she just had a miscarriage, right? At the very end of the novel. And I don't know, maybe you agree with me or not, but some of these authors do a pretty good job recapping their previous book, early on and often, but it's not too overbearing, just enough to wet your beak, fill you in. And I felt like a couple things were just missing from, that aspect early on.
Yeah. I think, though, that's the biggest through line connecting the last book to this one. And to see Hayley in a dark place, I think felt natural, the way that book ended. A little maybe jarring that she turned to the bottle so easily. And I don't remember that many hints of that being an issue for her. I remember, where she grew up, there were a lot of deep-rooted issues in the culture. And so no doubt things like alcoholism she could be susceptible to, but it kind of just jumps a little too quickly into where she spiraled. So I'm glad it picks up with the effects of her. She's been essentially telling Publius, I'm out. It had such a profound effect on her personal life and the family she may have been starting. And she lost the baby due to a fight, right? Doing her job. It was this conflict in the last book of her doing her job for Publius meant that she wasn't able to live this healthy family lifestyle that possibly, I wouldn't say she wanted, but that she was growing to be open to.
Yeah, because she was toying with getting rid of the baby the entire book, right?
Right. And that was gripping. We liked that in the last book because it felt real. She felt human, that she has issues. And I think eventually she was coming around to keeping the baby, and the fact that being part of Publius is what blocked her from fulfilling that, I think was a very gripping storyline that I was kind of glad to see the consequences of here.
The alcoholism stuff was I guess it was kind of hard to read. Not in the sense of like the well crafted. It just like made me cringe a little bit because I'm not used to
Yeah.
seeing her in this element and being, having these blackouts. And the whole scene, like early on when she's in the bar and she gets in a fight, or she first makes out with a guy who's rude to her and then gets in a fight with his girlfriend and him. And I will have to bring it back. Like, I love the Howdyisms, like the whole finding out, like the future immediately. I'm a big fan of those. Like, come to find out that like
Yes.
this guy then goes on to be like something successful.
Runs for Congress.
Yeah, runs for Congress essentially because he hits rock bottom from opioid addiction and then builds himself back up because he dislocated his knee because of Hayley Chill is just so funny, and it's a cool thing to read. But I could see those scenes earlier on in like Deeper State or whatever, but she's in full control, not letting the alcohol control the situation and letting her go too far. You know what I mean? It's kind of like sloppy badass chill. Like it's not even badass, just sloppy chill instead of badass chill.
Yeah. I don't want to make comparisons here, but bringing up the bar scene, especially a bar fight with a guy, really makes me think of Connor Sullivan's Sleeping Bear. And that had a very memorable bar scene, which carried through, that everyone in that scene had an important role to play, even if you didn't know it later on in the plot. And I felt like the bar scene was really well incorporated there. Where here, it's basically just a vehicle to show us where Hayley is in a bad place.
Right.
It's just kind of, we're going to set the stage to tell you this is happening. It's kind of tell you instead of show you. And I'm kind of just being told we have to have a bar scene to show she's in a bad place. She's spiraling. She's with this guy. She's a mess. I don't know if it came through. And another comparison I'll draw is Scott Harvath. I mean, there was a point in Brad Thor, you would probably be able to put your finger on the book, but he went into a bit of a drinking spiral, and he was at a bar, and it was some assassin was following him. It might have been a recent one, like Black Ice, quite possibly.
It's post, it's Black Ice because it's post like him losing Lara, right? And the old man.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was handled real well. So just, I don't know if it's very beneficial to compare the two, but if we're going to do those kinds of storylines, I've seen it done better elsewhere, or that had me more invested elsewhere. I mean, I like Hayley a whole lot, but same thing, like her squeezing the rock, right? Like that's a hallmark of Hayley Chill when she's ready to fight. The skin. Blood has been drawn, and she couldn't do it here. And I thought that was really cool. So I like these.
That was really cool.
I like the Hayley moments like that are her voice and Chris Hauty's voice, and like what makes this series unique, what makes this series shine. Like another one is Andrew Wilde and Publius. Like I almost am at a point where I want to see the curtain pulled back on Publius a little bit more. I want to see other operatives. I want to interact with them. And instead, what we replace that with is what I would say an over-reliance on the April Wu as a ghost. Unfortunately, I felt that device was a little overused. I really liked it, the last book, and maybe even Savage Road at the end, possibly, if I recall.
Well, because Savage Road is essentially like The Sixth Sense, right? Like half of the book, exactly. You didn't realize that she's dead. Yeah.
That's right. So I really was invested in that. Maybe a little too drawn out here. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, it's kind of changed this novel because he's essentially given April Wu more powers. Like
she predicts the future.
She's able to predict the future. She knows things before Hayley knows them. But I wanted to ask, is that just like new leveling up or new abilities that Howdy's decided to give to her? Or is it actually like in Hayley's mind, she already knew these things and we just didn't know them as a reader?
Oh, that's
and she's like she's projecting them on into her, into like April Wu's mind.
Because she is very perceptive and analytical, and with her eidetic memory. Okay, that works for me. I guess you're right. I read it in the moment as we're just going to go towards this like supernatural of like the universe. The cosmic energy is going to align to put you in the right place and tell you these things. But you're right in that it might be her own intelligence, her own analytical thinking skills leading her there. It's just that she's using her dead friend as the the catalyst to get her
Right.
to the conclusion, which she already knows in her own mind. Okay.
Right.
I think I like that reading more. I didn't get it on first read. Maybe
Yeah,
that's me, but
it's literally something that I thought of as I was like going to ask you the question, because I initially thought the exact same thing. Just this, like, all right, we're going to make her like a full-time ghost, like a real ghost instead of just a figment of Haley's imagination, like a
yeah,
ghost that has powers that can do things in the afterlife.
it felt that way.
I was like, all right, that's an interesting shift. Yeah, I will agree with you on Publius. I like a little bit more. Like, I want maybe a little bit more like Andrew Weil. He's an interesting character to me. Like,
Yes.
we even get like touch points about how he feels like a father to Chill, like the
Yes.
daughter he'll never have. That felt a little bit unearned. I don't know, just because of the amount of time we've spent with him. I guess it makes sense, but yeah, and obviously, some of the cool scenes I think about from previous novels was her interacting with that famous ex-president, that likes her so
Yes.
much.
Yes.
And even like doesn't she interact with another ex-justice? Like that's they have like
Exactly.
Supreme Court justice on and an ex-senator, right?
At the shooting range. They're all shooting together.
Right. They're all shooting together. Yeah, and it's like, it's people from all walks of life, all like across the aisle, like that's what made Publius so cool to me, was this is apolitical, deeper state that was there to protect the Constitution at all cost. So I don't know, I guess this is kind of leading us to the plot and like what Hauty's decided to go here. So we've had, the first novel was a Russian mole as the president. The second one was, with the whole NSA cybersecurity. I don't remember like actually what they were trying to do. They were trying to take down something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Using something about the NSA. And then the last one was all about the Civil War. Now we're going to try to, it's essentially Purdue Pharma is going to try to prevent the Supreme Court to come down on them by hiring Mexican drug cartels to knock off some centrist Supreme Court justices, because I'm assuming that, I guess he mentions that POTUS would elect people who are ideological similar to the ones that they want. It's a pretty bold plot. What did you like? I essentially just spoiled the book in like a minute, but what do you think about that?
Minus the kidnapping stuff, you pretty much covered everything there is.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna we're gonna kidnap in order to force people to do it.
And I kind of like how the kidnapping comes together. Like, Hayley kind of tells Publius, I'm gonna go do this other thing to kind of save these children meanwhile. But Shaw is caught up in that, and Shaw is Justice Fisher's chief of security. So I think the two plots intertwine pretty nicely, and that was satisfying. Overall, I'm pretty excited to see a Supreme Court book. We didn't have any scene in DC, and when we get to judge a cover by the book, I mean, the Supreme Court steps and columns play a very central role in this cover. I almost wish we could have seen Justice Fisher doing her job, because she's on Hawaii, her vacation house, the whole time, because she's getting married and she's honeymooning. But I kind of would have liked a little bit more Washington intrigue. I think, again, that's another strength of Chris Hauty. His Washington scenes have always been great. I'm thinking the fight in GW, in the deli, in the bathroom stall, going off the Key Bridge in book number 1.
Right,
I think his DC scenes have been fantastic. And I can't think of too many here, which to me is disappointing in that I want a Supreme Court book. How much action in a thriller takes place in the Supreme Court chambers or anywhere near the building? Like, it's always the Capitol or the White House. I think there was a big opportunity there. And the other thing, security of justices, I mean, a very, very hot button issue. If we're talking about a writer putting his finger or getting the pulse of the nation, just look at how, protesters are being sent for political agendas, not to protest at the Supreme Court, but at a justice's home. And threats have been uncovered against justices and people literally showing up on the doorstep with guns. So I think very compelling to then add, what if the threat is on the inside? What if it's your security staff, who are armed and right next to you 24/7. What if they're the ones that can be convinced to assassinate you? I think there's some really, really cool concepts there. And while I enjoyed it, I think some of the best scenes were between Shaw and Fisher, and that might have been the best part of the book, but it didn't last the whole time. Like, there were some flashpoints where Shaw is about to shoot Fisher in the back of the head, and Hayley shows up in the house, and Shaw turns his gun on her, and they have the stare down behind the justice's back. And then the plot to hide her, to fake her death, essentially, and then hide her out. I really love that angle. And parts of it were awesome, but I just felt something was missing, or there was an opportunity that was passed up.
Yeah, so this book in the beginning, like, really, really had me going. Like, the whole introduction with the first, it's not a marshal, but it's another, I guess it's Supreme Court police, right?
Yep.
That goes and visit, and like, you're like, why is this guy, why is he sweating? Why is he talking about blood at his house, like his kid? And then, you then slowly start to piece it together that he's about to do something really bad, and you're just gripped, right? You're like, well,
that's the prologue.
Did he kill his family? Did, what's going on? And then as we build up and we learn that they're going to use these children to manipulate Shaw and like his internal strife, like, I thought that was done very well. And, like, him talking to himself, like, he's going to confide in his wife. Like, no, he can't, like, when she probably should. And this, the phone thing was interesting. How, like, someone could send you a text and then it disappears.
Assassination by Snapchat.
I was wondering, like, so if they can monitor his camera, aren't they going to see that he's also using another phone to take pictures of that?
Yeah,
but maybe they weren't monitoring the camera, because, spoiler alert, at the very end, we find out the freaking Supreme Court justice's newlywed was in on the whole plot, and he was feeding more information. So maybe they just had this fancy, like, essentially Snapchat for texts, but they didn't have the whole malware, the phone fully controlled. Because, that software does exist. That's what Pegasus is, like what the Israelis developed. So
I was wondering about the tech too, because I'm like, no doubt it's out there, but who has access to it? Who would give it to the cartels? Or maybe who is the cartel working with or paying to use it? Is it like a developing country's government who bought Pegasus or got it from the Israelis? And
I know, like, Ecuador apparently bought a copy. There exists copies out there. So,
but still, I don't know. I think it left too many holes, because I'm like, I got Shaw's torment, and I agree. I like the scenes with his wife and his family, and he's torn between telling them. I thought it got really human there, but I'm like, couldn't he come up with something, or how's he going to get out of this jam? I wasn't fully bought into the fact that he couldn't tell anybody. I'm like, you could just tell people, hide your phone, talk to, like, nobody. Basically, the cartels didn't have a watcher on him 24/7, as far as I know. I know they had informants, but there had to have been opportunities in his daily life where he could have involved somebody or told somebody. I don't know if I was bought into the fact that he was so watched and so monitored that everything he did was calculated.
He's definitely not, because they were able to come up with that whole plot about the, faking the death, because even though Lachlan is upstairs at the house, like, he doesn't know about it. And because there's, unless Joe, but Joe, like, really thinks that he's worried about it. That's why he comes to Maui, like, to try to find this body. Joe, this corporate security guy for, a Purdue Pharma type, I forget the actual name.
Is Joe Gunn? I was confused by that too. Are Gunn and Joe the same person?
It's Joe Gunn. That he's a corporate head of security. And so, like, that whole plot, like, this idea that there would be someone working for a company, and it's, I don't know if you've watched the last season of Ozark.
Nope.
Did you watch Ozark at all?
Go ahead and spoiled it. I watched the pilot and then never got into it.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so, all right. Spoiler alert, if no one's watched Ozark, or when someone plans to watch Ozark, jump forward a couple 15 seconds. Right. So this whole series is about poppy fields, and so eventually, the last season, the drug cartel, he wants to get out. In order to get out, he needs to get a lot of money, and so he starts supplying again, like a Purdue Pharma type company with like they need heroin essentially in order to lace their drugs with fentanyl, right? In the series, there's this corporate head of security type who he's the go between, and he is in the offices, but also in the Mexican drug cartel area, and like that was interesting. You can definitely tell that Hauty is a cinemaphile of both TV and movies because the influence on this book, I'm getting Hawaii 5-0. I mean, he even references The Fugitive, right? Like, you have that whole aspect of it. You have like Ozark, talking about that. You have Dope Sick. I guess it's also he just likes to bring in touch points from the news headlines of the day and put it into his novels, which is cool. I like that stuff. So
yeah, I think it's one of his strengths as well. I think that he does that really, really well. I mean, Insurrection Day is probably the best example of
right,
that. You can't get more current. That he wrote a January 6th book months later. Yeah. So I like that stuff. It was good. I do want to, and maybe this will go with the scorecard later, dig into the villains a bit more, because you mentioned, the big bad pulling the strings, but then we also have the guys downrange doing the dirty work, Carranza, the Suarez brothers, Saturnino, which is a very interesting character I want to parse apart. But before we get to the bad guys, I really like the scene you were talking about with the plan to fake Fisher's death as a way to buy them more time. That was probably my favorite part of the book. Would you say it was probably midway, just after midway through?
Yeah, and I think it was the way it was written that had me not I shouldn't say confused, but intrigued, because and there was a couple times in this book, and I don't know, I can't remember specifically if this is like a Howdyism, if it's happened before, but he'll like write something and then a hard cut to like the next thing, because like Hayley says, she's the one who says Fisher must die, and then immediately we go to something else, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I'm going to go for a swim. Like, there's
you see,
there's
I got
some interesting. Oh, you figured it out.
So I think you're right. I think it's interesting, and I think it's a little bit of a risky play. But the moment Hayley ended that chapter, because that was a very memorable, cutscene chapter, she says, "You're right. Justice Fisher must die." I was like, oh, I literally thought they have to make the cartel think she's dead. I knew that was the play. So when they went swimming next scene, I was like, oh, here we go. She's going to get lost swimming. They're going to hide her out on an island or something. Yeah. So I could see if you don't get that, it would be kind of fun, actually, I would think, to learn that a little bit later.
Yeah,
but you're right. It's not going to sit with you.
My first instinct was, wait, is Hayley Cho really going to kill the justice to save the kids? Like what's, I mean, obviously she's going through like withdrawal right now. Like maybe she's, not sane. Like that was my first read of it. And then when I realized what happened, I was like, oh, she was like being coy, right? Like yes, we have to make them think. Yeah. It was a cool plot. And
I think it's playful. I think that's a playful
exposes device. That exposes the hole in this whole listening device technology thing, because they say keep your phone on you at all times, and they were truly monitoring it, then
they would know.
Like you would have to have. Oh, we just read about it in the last Jack Carr novel. Remember when he's talking to Stowe? He takes her phone, puts it into the bathroom,
and plays
turns
music
on the water, plays music, turns on the water,
Yep.
And so I think maybe even just like a little bit of explanation, but I guess they were trying to, that he wasn't trying to like give us the whole spiel then and there. So, but
that tradecraft kind of writing from Jack Carr, which you kind of get from a Vince Flynn, which definitely goes back even to the earlier Spy Master, style writers.
We don't
I think
get that
comes
for
through
here.
so much better. We don't get that here, right? We don't. Yeah. So
Well, I think that's never been his. It's not something that he does really. He
it's
has
true.
his own style. We've talked about it before. It's very staccato. He writes dialogue very well, I think because he's just has a screenwriting background. He likes to write those descriptions that tell us about people's futures, and I think that's screenwriting 101, right? Like you put a little paragraph that no one ever sees that because it's just it's put there to give
It's like a
the
director's note.
actor. Yeah, it's put there to give the actor, the director, anyone like context for like Sam looks knowingly off into the distance, contemplating their future. The fact that they're gonna, it's just like, all right, that's what it's. I'm supposed to convey this
Get in
in
that mind
my
space.
actions,
Yeah.
word. Yeah, exactly. But now, since we're reading, we get to actually read it, and it's cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely like that about Chris Hauty's style. I think here you see the fact that he does that, almost sacrificing other things, which are the tradecraft. Hayley's not a spy, and so if she had some of those skills or other characters did, it'd be kind of cool. But no, they're just like security guards, right? They're Supreme Court security or the U.S. Marshals. It's just a different group of people, and so maybe I'm expecting the wrong thing, but I think some of that would be cool. And Hayley does it. It's just maybe some of the other characters. I was wondering too. I was like, is Shaw eventually going to be in Publius?
Right.
We almost are getting so invested in him. I could see him a book from now, 2 books from now, whatever, being brought into the fold of Publius somehow. But then I'm like, I don't really know if he's cut out for that kind of work. He's not really the profile. So it's
No, but he was
kind of a couple things at odds.
He was a solid, and maybe this can sort of turn us into the scorecard. He was a solid good guy, someone who comes in for a book. We understand his motivations. We get a peek into his life, and then we move on. Those characters are essential to making good serialization novels.
Yeah, that's a big positive. I'll agree with you completely. I'm good to get into it because right there, that's going to add a point or two alone because I did like Shaw.
All right, what about the action? How was the action for you? Kind of light on action.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I mean, all right. We can. What sort of action scenes do we get? We get
the bar scene, the bar fight, but that's not much.
Yeah, we get the.
We get this weird cutaway to. I forget the purpose exactly. I think it was Gunn betting on these 2 criminals. One chooses a blowtorch and one chooses a chainsaw.
That was a weird scene. I had to listen to that scene. To the audiobook. I had to listen to that chapter twice to understand why we were here. And I think the sole purpose of it is just to. I think Hauty was very interested with involving the Mexican drug cartel. I think the fact that we got a chapter called Saturnina's story and Hector's story, all of we got the backstory. He was really intent on fully immersing us with the drug cartel portion of this novel.
Yeah.
I think that was just another step in it, is to explain these are not people to fuck with. Yeah. And I'm going to get this Bitcoin, but I better not try to steal it. But he was going to try to steal it anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah. It reminded me of Storm Rising, where we had some boxing match, or there was a brawl on an army base. It was a
boxing match.
They were just putting money on a boxing match between these people, and Hayley shows up. It kind of felt like, let's do something similar to that, but in the Mexican drug cartel with weapons. And so I just want to show a blowtorch versus a chainsaw and let's see what happens. Okay, cool. If I'm watching some sort of bizarre movie that I can expect that from, but it was just so unexpected here. I don't know. I felt a little out of place, but for action, I would say the best action, and it's more suspense than it is action, is the kidnapping. And maybe this goes to plot, but I liked Bodhi. If we're talking good guys,
right?
I liked the teenagers and the girl. I forget, Michaela or something, Mika.
She has like a Hawaiian name. Yeah.
The Hawaiian name, right? I really liked the teenagers, especially one of my favorite things they did. And again, not quite action, but they put Bodhi in this knife fight, and I think he gets slashed somewhere, but they're filming it. Oh, they want to cut off the bus driver's ear, and they're filming all this to show to Shaw, like, look, we're not fucking around. So they pretend they're going to kill Bodhi and then cut the camera before they actually do. But he's able to scratch the name of the beach he thinks they're at.
He thinks
because he knows the waves.
That was cool. That was cool.
He scratches it in the sand, and then as he rolls over in the video, they see it, and Shaw picks up on that he wrote that there as a clue. So, little suspenseful kind of action plays like that are really cool. Is there enough of an action set piece that drew me in a whole lot?
Biggest,
and then the end.
The biggest is the end, right? Is the gunfight with the twins at the airport, and then like the gunfight at this like
the trail
with the windmill. And I will say, like, his setting description of Hawaii like had me feeling like I was kind of there. I don't know. I'm going to give him high points on setting. Like I was kind of intrigued by the descriptions of this bomb shelter and where they're at, and being in Hawaii, being in this very these various spots. It's obviously at Christmas time. We get like a brief description of like in DC or Virginia, like where the first justice is killed, in the prologue. So
right.
Yeah, but that I don't know. I'm gonna go light on action. I'm gonna go like a 7, 6, 6.5.
Yeah, I was between the two. I went with the 6 just because even what I think is the capstone action sequence, where the justice shoots the guy who's about to kill Hayley at this trailhead, while the Suarez brothers are shooting at the cops at the airport. It was all good, but was it super cool? I don't know. So I went with a 6. It just seemed very standard. Very, let's have a shootout in the woods, and it's very simple. So I went down to a 6 on action.
Okay.
What about plot? What do you say for plot?
I'm gonna go like 7.5. It's like a solid plot.
Yeah. I think some things with the justice and faking her death was really cool. And I'm going to ding something on buy-in, so I'm not going to go too low on plot. I'll sit at the 7. Going to ding something on buy-in in a minute, but I think the kidnapping stuff in the plot too, I did like. So take or leave the big pharma stuff.
That's where I'm going to ding it on buy-in. The fact that I don't believe, maybe I'm naive in thinking that, a big pharma is going to go as drastic enough to kill 2 sitting Supreme Court justices just to get a change in the ruling.
Crazier things have happened.
Yeah. I guess like
crazier things are happening right now.
There have been presidential assassinations, so I don't know. Maybe it's just me being naive, but I don't know. What were you going to give for buy-in?
So that's part of what I'm going to ding it on. Take or leave the big pharma stuff. I don't know if I buy kidnapping a bus full of kids is going to get the family friend of one of the kids to kill a Supreme Court justice. I didn't know if all the pieces were falling, but there was
if one of them was the father. If one of them was the father, I would believe that more.
Right. He was basically like an uncle, he just knew the kids in the community.
Similar to like how the first police officer was the father, like I could believe that.
Right. That one I believed a little bit more. So a little bit of a stretch there, and I don't know why it shaped up that way, but I think because if you take Shaw's kids, assuming that was a possibility, he's off the detail. Like he's not doing the job anymore. So I get why you couldn't do that. That made sense because then Shaw wouldn't be in the game. He'd be out. Right. He'd be dealing with that. But no, the big.
And I guess the fact that everyone knows, because Hayley even says this, well, it could be any of the people because this community is so tight. It could be any of the U.S. Marshals who are here because everyone knows each other. So yeah, I guess
exactly.
I'm sort of contradicting myself there. But all right, what's your big glaring thing?
Okay, the big one is the coincidence when Hayley is at the supermarket and sees Saturnino, the Mexican blonde guy, with dry ice and coolers, and all of a sudden is like, he's harvesting body parts from kids who got kidnapped on a school bus. And I know that wasn't it. I know it wasn't that quick a jump. And we did get to hear her thinking out loud of how she put it together. But a little bit of a coincidence of this guy is here. He's raiding the pharmacy.
She sees a gun. She sees a gun. Yeah.
She sees a gun. She follows the guy. I don't know if seeing a gun is enough to go off mission. And I get a lot of people like Hayley. They have the vibes, they pass the vibe check. Like the hairs go up on your arm, your spidey sense is tingling. That means something and you're going to follow it. But just a bit of a stretch that this Saturnino character is right there stealing the drugs. Hayley sees him with a gun, follows him in. And then later on, they're able to put together, oh, he's one of the kidnappers and there's a cooler for harvesting body parts. I'm like, a bit of a stretch. I'm going a 2 on buy-in. Sorry.
I thought you could have done that a little bit better in the sense that she sees it. Shaw pulls her back and is like, half the people have guns here. Let's get out of here.
Exactly.
They leave. He continues to do the whole thing. He steals the medicine. And then somehow Shaw finds out that, this random guy stole this medicine. And then because he knows the one kid has epilepsy, they put it together.
Exactly. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and instead
Hayley is just like
pieces.
Yeah,
she literally solves everything, from running into one of the bad guys. It was a little bit of convenience, opportunity. Yeah, I'm gonna go 2.5. All right, what about the bad guys?
The bad guys wasn't too bought in on this gun guy. We got Carranza, we got Lozano, we've got the Suarez brothers. Together, they're all right. And I do like the idea of taking a chapter to go through the backstory of each one of them. Saturnino from the beginning is just not in it. He really it doesn't seem, there's no reason for me to believe he's going to be in with these guys this deep. I know we got an explainer about it and why, but I don't know if it was enough to get me. And then when he's playing both sides or he has some empathy for the kids, I'm glad we see that. But I just don't know if it really defines the people who are running in these circles and doing those things. I thought it was a little unrealistic to have him thrown into the pot with guys as bad as the Suarez brothers, who one of them decapitated a dude with a steak knife. I don't know. Something about them all wasn't gelling for me. I also got to go 2 out of 5.
I almost thought that he was going to be an undercover. We're going to find out that he was
right,
an actual good guy. Instead of just he became a good guy, but an actual, undercover cop. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we didn't get it. We had too many. This is a problem we bring up often. When you have too many bad guys vying for supremacy, and you don't give, even though he gave him those interesting backstory chapters, it just didn't do enough for me. I'm agree with you with the 2. So
yeah,
going low, but I think good guys are going to be high.
Yeah, I think we got 2 really good categories left to talk about, and it's the good guys. You said it before. Shaw's a really believable character. I'm very glad we're in his shoes for, I would say, most of the chapters. I would say maybe
he's almost like the main character.
He gets more page time than Hayley, quite possibly. So, or it's equal. Yeah, I think I'm going to give 4.5 to the good guys. I liked them. And then the kids, like I said, Bodhi and the other kids, I really liked them.
Yeah, no, because the kids, I'll also give it a 4.5. I was going to go 4, but I'll give it 4.5. The kid storyline, and even putting this dipshit bus driver who is a realist and is a chicken, not having him be the muscle superhero guy, having him actually be someone who, it might actually do that if they were put in that situation.
Right.
It's some realism there. And so I enjoyed that. Yeah.
He probably plays video games, lives in his mom's basement kind of thing.
They said when he's not driving the bus, he's smoking weed. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, you said you like the setting. You like the Hawaii stuff. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to hit it up for, I'm going to give it a 4. I just wish we could have balanced it It's a solid 4. I think, like I said, I wanted some more DC, balancing it out a little bit more with what's going on the home front and politicking in the Capitol. But
I'm actually going to take away another half point from buy-in because I don't buy in the whole Lachlan, like, essentially soliciting this Supreme Court justice just to make money. I don't know. I didn't buy that. We kind of like touched on it earlier, but the whole like the big plot twist at the end was supposed to be that, and it left me feeling weird. Like it didn't need that. Like he could have just died, and then the story would have been just as good or just the same.
I thought he might have been the one feeding information, tipping off the cartel and whatnot the whole time. I thought he was a little nefarious, but then we kind of flip to the justice talking about how she can't live without him and she loves him so much and she can never imagine a world without him. I'm like, this is out of left field. I've been getting the vibe the whole time that she kind of doesn't love him. It's almost going to be a marriage of convenience in some sense. And then she goes on some, tirade about their love is so deep and what she'll do without him. And she feels so bad that he thinks she's dead. I was like, it felt a little forced. And I kind of was thinking he was bad anyway. So as far as Hauty twists go, that's a hallmark of the series, right? You're going to get a Hauty twist. This one didn't land as hard.
Yeah, definitely not as hard as finding out that the president is a Russian mole. That's for sure. No, I don't think anything's going to top that.
You can't top Deep State. That was the definition of a Hauty twist done perfectly. And then Hayley starts speaking Russian. It's like, damn. That was good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to do cover or free space?
Can we talk cover for a second?
Yeah, let's do cover. I kind of like it.
Yeah, same. I like the layout. I like the marble white background.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to contradict
Hawaiian
myself.
Sunset.
You get the sunset, you get the palm trees, definitely a Hawaiian vibe inside the letters. I almost wish the two were inverted. In terms of judging a cover by the book, I don't think it would work as well stylistically. I think I love this cover for the style. But in terms of judge a cover by the book, I would love to see a Hawaii cover with the text being the marble white columns of the Supreme Court. Because to me, that's a much smaller part of the story, or at least a smaller part of the setting. And Hawaii is really where we're at. So Hawaii, a school bus, something like that, a beach, the waves, boaty surfing. I think I would have liked to see something like that as opposed to the Supreme Court dominating the cover. But then have a nod to the Supreme Court.
Right. No, that's a good. You should ask ChatGPT to make that for you. That's cool. Yeah, I mean it's a solid cover. I think it's not. It's like a 3. It's perfect medium. Nothing bad, nothing great. Maybe 3.5. I don't know.
Yeah,
we've definitely seen worse. We've seen worse. So we don't have another cover. So I feel like that's also bringing it down. This is the only thing standing right now. So
sometimes a cover B or C could actually help if one of them is really well
done.
done.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who's your winner? What's your free space?
In my winner, I talked about it. I'm going to go with that stretch of the book from the moment Hayley says Justice Fisher must die, and then they hatch the plot to hide her, all the way up through, because I think it's like a 3-chapter swing that just keeps you invested the whole time, that ends with Bodhi and the knife fight and him revealing the location, the beach they think they're at. I just think that, 50, 60-page stretch right in the middle was so gripping and well done. If that could have been expanded the whole book, my score would have been 10, 12 points higher for sure, because that one scene was just really, really cool. I really liked how that story was told. So that little section is my winner.
Okay. You kind of took mine, but...
Oh, okay.
Well, I have a couple more. So I could... Like I said, we kind of talked about it in Good Guys, but I like these other characters that we get. There's even some cool descriptions. Like, yeah, the guy she fights, like that whole story was interesting. Talking about the justice's bodyguard. He's a native Hawaiian.
Oh, that guy was great.
Yeah, like
Jeremiah.
that was yeah, Jeremiah. Like that
Oh,
was cool.
Jeremiah's the free space bro. I forgot about him.
Like Chris Hauty does a good thing, like of elevating these minor characters that it just adds a little more context, a little more heft to a book when you make these characters. You fill them out a little bit more, And you weren't vibing with the April Fool stuff. I liked it. So, I could give it to her. I could just give it to other, side characters in the novel.
Okay.
So it's a weak
Yeah.
free space, but the main one is the fact that like there's a solid section of this book that is like hardcore ripping, and I was on this ride, and I was like, all right, let's go, and then it was different. It took a different things toward the end. wasn't my cup of tea. I'm sure many of our listeners are going to enjoy it. Yeah, I would recommend this book. I wouldn't say not read it, but it's I'm always interested to see what Hayley Chill is up to next. So
absolutely. That's the real winner here is we got more Hayley Chill. All thriller readers win when there is more Hayley Chill out in the universe. I think though, wrapping it up there, I would like to do a little Chris Hauty rankings now that we've got essentially 5 books, 4.5 really. I think it'd be a little fun to rank them. So what do you say we make that a patron special, a patron only episode? You and I do a little chat ranking the 4.5 Chris Hauty books that we have.
Sounds good to me.
While we're at it, we can also maybe do, like you said, his side characters are great. Top side characters, Hayley Chill, or who would join Publius? Who would you want to see from another thriller join Publius? We'll do like an all Chris Hauty patron special, rank the books, and just talk about some other various topics in the Hauty books.
No, let's definitely do that. I guess, but before we go, just you kind of mentioned that you wanted to do this. Just give me like a 2-minute breakdown of what are you looking for in the next Hayley Chill novel?
Yeah, I said that earlier, and then I kind of went on to make my point anyway. I'm looking for Publius. I mean...
Right. Yeah, so that's what you want to see.
We know what Hayley can do. We want to see her do more of it, but she was almost at her best when she had the living April, or, this relationship with Andrew Wilde. There was a split second, I gotta say, and I don't know if this was intentional, a split second where I wondered about him if he was the informant. I think it was the moment
interesting.
Hayley gives him the address of the hotel where Fisher is hiding out.
Right. And Shaw says, is that a good idea? Yeah.
It says, is that a good idea? And she doesn't essentially vouch all that much for Wilde. And then also we see the bad guys on the move. They're like heading there,
Right.
So I'm like, we had a leak. Very few people know about this. Who's the leak? And he popped into my mind. Jack Carr did that to us recently in the most recent book, making us wonder if a certain somebody is leaking secrets or is dark. I was a little on edge there. So I think we need Andrew Wilde. We need Publius. We need a behind the curtains of how they operate and what they're doing instead of just a side adventure on Hawaii, is what this was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I can't wait
DC,
to see.
We need more DC.
We need more DC. Yeah, I can't wait to see, where we go next. I think we've sort of turned the chapter on her emotional, maybe that's obviously still going to be no one like gets over that. But I think, she's conquered this inner devil that she knows. And we're ready to turn the page and get back into Publius. So what are we talking about next time we get together, Mike?
Oh, that's a good question. What do we have?
Are we doing, we got to do a Brad Thor, right? A full black?
We got to do full black on the Brad Thor pod. I did put together that little graphic I sent you of our reading list for the rest of the year. So we will be publishing now that it is June, the midway point of 2023. We've got full black. We're going to go back to a little old school Kyle Mills. We said we wanted to read Fade before the release of Code Red. And believe it or not, just a month or so, we've got Ryan Steck's next book, Lethal Range, coming out. So we'd love to have him back on the pod and talk about his book number 2. So we got a little Thor, Mills, Steck, and we're going to throw in some Don Bentley, all in advance of Code Red.
And we have Brad Thor's new novel as well. Don't forget about that.
Right, Deadfall. That's July. So that's soon.
July. That's soon as well. Yeah. So we had a jam pack. I also got a book in the mail today that I don't even know who the author is. So did you get this book?
No. What is it?
It's outside. It's on my porch. I was opened it. But Patrick thought it was a present for him, so he opened it and put it. He was disappointed it was a book. So I meant to text you about it. But yeah, we're getting sent unsolicited arcs of like new authors that David wants us to cover on the pod. So.
Oh boy, we're getting some steam. Hey Patrick, happy 7th birthday. Here's Order to Kill.
Yeah.
Happy 7th birthday. Here's American Assassin.
Exactly. We're reading the Hardy Boys right now. So
ooh, classics, very nice. Let me know when you start The Hobbit.
It's actually the Hardy Boys Junior. It's like one of the Hardy Boys has 2 kids that are like the Hardy Boys, so it's funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he can like read it because it's a little more, has more pictures. So yeah. Well, we need to thank our patrons, our special operator Sherry F, our special agents Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, and Mark. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us online at thrillerpod.com or on Twitter and Instagram at thrillerpodcast. And as always, getting shit done.
Dude, I love that line. Do you remember that line where it said, Hayley chill, her superpower was to get shit done? That was classic, bro. I love that line.
It's classic chill right there. Yeah.